But I think that there needs to be a relearning of how the process should actually even be. Like back then, as we are saying here, like we are saying that every stage that a person progresses to, it becomes much more anxious. It becomes a bit more difficult and much more discomforting. But back then, it was the idea of learning itself was happy. That the process of learning is supposed to be an enjoyable one, and at the end of it, you are supposed to attain ultimate happiness. But you don't have that as well. I was reading this particular issue, and I'll tell you why this is important for us. Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi in the Siyar Alamin Nubala of Al-Zahabi, it was said that when people would go up to him and to study hadith, people would knock on his door and he would actually open and say, "What do you want to learn?" If they said hadith, he would say, "Wait for a while." He'll go in and take a shower, and then he'll adorn himself with his best clothing, wear the most expensive perfume. He'll ensure that his house is actually beautifully decorated. He would prepare pillows, and then he'll put the people in. Ahlan bi talibi Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And then he'll ensure that they have fans, pillows and cushions. And then when they're comfortable, he will then say, "Let's begin." Qala Rasulullahi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. To mean that there was the ensuring that the experience was also one that was delightful as well. Hari ini we don't pay much attention to that, I think, as much. So the process becomes stunted a bit in that sense.
Exactly. So the joy of learning is not emphasized. But what's emphasized is the quantity of learning. That you need to know so many things. A child is taught like 5-10 subjects.
And the standardization or expectation of that is also at times unrealistic. That if you're at this age, you must know this.
Exactly. And that we quantify knowledge as against the age. That by certain age, you are supposed to attain certain kind of knowledge. But in the past, that was not the emphasis. Exactly. The emphasis was on the child to be able to understand things that are first necessary, fardu ain, and other things that the sheikh know that the child could actually specialize in accordance to his or her capabilities. So some children cannot memorize much. So they were told to do some other what they call as in the past as physical sciences. Other kids seem to be more academic. And they can memorize, but they cannot think analytically. They will be told to memorize things. And they become people who are experts in that field. But there are other people like Imam Malik, Shafi'i, Ahmad, and so forth. They are people who not only can memorize, but also can abstract from what they have memorized. They are then pushed into certain kinds of knowledge. So it is knowledge that was tailored to the capabilities of the child. So that leads me to the next point actually. That the whole purpose of seeking knowledge is not to gain degrees. And this is something that is that we need to rethink. That we are always in search of degrees, of paper qualifications. The whole purpose of knowledge, the whole purpose of reading and learning and finding out is to realize one's fullest intellectual potential. And once we have this right, even someone who does not have a PhD can actually become a specialist in a given field. And if you look at many scholars, including Einstein himself, they become brilliant people because their parents believe that you are out there looking for this knowledge on physics, for example, because it fits into your nature, your fitrah, basically. And because you are doing it out of joy, sheer joy, and learn and love for it, you become the best of the best in that field. And we don't have that. I think what has happened is that we have put ourselves, well, of course, the system sometimes put us in boxes, but our own way of looking at ourselves has always been in the boxes that people determine for us. People who can get out of these boxes and search knowledge to realize their full potential, they can do great things. The difficult becomes easy, and they can do marvelous and think about marvelous stuff.
Awesome. Inshallah. Now, let us look at whatever they're discussing and then go back into